Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, I'm Scott Carson, your host. Excited to be here for this afternoon recording or afternoon live stream of the podcast. We have a very, very special guest today. Join us all the way from up in Ohio. We have real estate attorney and just bulldog of an attorney, our good buddy Franco Barile, join us. So, hey, afternoon, bud. How's it going up there?
Good afternoon. Things are great up here. We've got good weather for the summer. We're enjoying it.
That's good stuff, man. Now, you have done a tremendous job. I'm going to start that right off the bat. You have done a tremendous job for not only us, but for a lot of our students buying assets in the Ohio and Michigan markets out there, whether it's a non-performing first or a contract for deed. So a big applause to you right off the bat.
Thank you for that.
Yay, no, hey, trust me, I hear from everybody. Hey, this guy does a great job. This person's not doing a good job. So we love to throw business to people that are doing great jobs. But for those that don't know who you are, why don't you take a second and talk about you, your guys' firm, and the state you kind of license, and then what you're specialized in.
Sure. Got a partnership with Tony Sotilli. We started back in April 2015, so we're well on our third year here, going into our fourth. And I tell you what, we had a synergy when we got together. We both had pretty decent amount of clients doing well. But when we got together, something just happened. I think like-minded individuals, business-minded individuals, we got together and said, hey, there's a business side to this legal work. So we took, full advantage of that. And under our belt, we have 4 licenses. We have Ohio, Michigan, Indiana, and Kentucky. We just opened up a practice in Illinois, so we do have a 5th state now. With our experience, we've been with very large firms, mill firms. I started as a title insurance defense attorney, so that's kind of where I've got my background in doing these title and collateral reviews. I was able to flush out some of these problems very quickly for some of these students of yours. So with that experience, with Tony's experience, we have a full service creditor side, bankruptcy department, foreclosure department, collections department, anything you can think of in the real estate world. We joined forces, came together, and we haven't stopped growing since.
You guys have created your really own super friends or yes. Avengers. That's
not bad. I like that.
Right, which is good stuff. Now, that's kind of a variety of markets there with those 5 states. Why don't we talk about, because we got a lot of people that are buying stuff in different parts of the United States. Ohio, Michigan's a big market for note investors. Illinois, outside of Cook County. But let's talk with the state you mentioned when we were talking beforehand, a state you don't do a lot of business in because of a lot of the legislation. Let's talk with the Bluegrass State, Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky. We haven't seen much on the investor side, and that's due to the licensing requirements. The state, you need to have a $1 million bond. Now, you can have a joint venture with 6 or 7 different people, and it equals $1 million worth of net revenue, which is fine, but you have to get together with a lot of people to reach that. Between that and the bond and, giving up your financials, doing a criminal check, credit check, you have to pay a yearly required fee. It doesn't make any sense to do it. I don't see a return on investment in that state due to the fact of those requirements. Now, we do get work from small lenders, from banks. We don't see much on the investor side due to those regulations. They're pretty heavy. And I can actually provide you, afterwards with a memorandum that we prepared for our clients stating, here's why Kentucky's not the greatest for some note investors.
Right. And that's on the non-performing side and a contract for deed side, both there, correct?
That's correct.
Correct. It's not the greatest states. You got 2 great markets, but with the licensing aspect, I knew there was a bond. I didn't know it was $1 million bond. So that's something I learned right now there. I never liked the state that much for the most part because of the foreclosure markets anyway, really wiped out Louisville for a long time.
That's right.
Because there's so many of them that were cheap, that were killing comps for everything for the most part. So, and then unless you're a basketball fan, you don't want to really be in Kentucky anyway.
You can make your money somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly. There's plenty of other places to make money at. Exactly. Right. So let's talk a little about Illinois. Let's dive there. That's the newest market for you guys. I know that you aligned yourself with another attorney in that neck of the woods there. Probably the longest foreclosure time frames for the 5 states.
Yeah, they are. And you mentioned that one county before, Cook County. They're they're tough. I mean, you're dealing with judges there. You're not dealing so much with the actual foreclosure process. You go outside of that county, things move pretty smoothly. Yep. But that county, we know We're trying to position ourselves for that county specific. Now, Illinois has requirements as well for licensing. It's not as cumbersome. I do believe there's a yearly fee of about $5,000.
No,
it's less.
It's actually less. I am a licensed debt collector.
Wow, okay.
$700, $750.
Okay.
So it's not that, but it doesn't stop you. I think they passed a law that doesn't. You want to get that, but it doesn't impede the foreclosure process or slow it down as long as you have it by the end. Is what I've been told.
Okay.
So, but
yeah, and there's quite a bit of volume there, and that's kind of why we wanted to jump into that market. We aligned ourselves with a very good attorney in Illinois who's joining our practice, and with that attorney, we know we can turn it into a pretty profitable machine. But we're excited for that state. We're opening up here next week, so we have everything ready to go, and from there on, we'll include that as one of our states.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, when you look at DuPage County, and a lot of the other ones, there's some pretty big markets there. City with borrowers that aren't paying or are a little late. We won't call them deadbeat because I've been there and other people have been there in our past with different things. But the thing to keep in mind, plenty of inventory there. Just try to avoid Chicago or Chirac if you can. I guess you can say.
I never heard of it that way, but that's pretty good.
Chirac? Oh man, I heard a police captain of Chicago. I heard him say that at one point.
Oh my goodness.
Around. But anyway, we'll move on.
Sure.
Let's talk about your bread and butter states for the most part that you've been doing for a long time, and let's start with Ohio. What do you say? Because that's where your home offices are at, right?
Yeah, Ohio's a pretty smooth state depending on what type of asset you're picking up. If you're looking at a note and a mortgage, you're looking at 9 to 12 months turnaround through the foreclosure process, which actually isn't too bad. Where I'm from, a suburb of Cleveland, Cuyahoga County is the county. They normally took 2 years in the past, 3 years to get it through the process. That's no longer the issue. There are still some mediation processes that can delay a county or two, but they haven't been like they were in the past. So Ohio usually it's a pretty good state for us. Foreclosure process, you're looking 9 to 12 months, sometimes a little more for mediation. Your price point, you're looking at budgeting between $5,000 and $6,000. That's with attorneys' fees and costs. If you're looking at the CFD route, the rule in Ohio is if it's over 5 years old or more than 20% of the purchase price is paid, you have to go through the foreclosure process.
Let's hang on a second. I don't want to brush over that.
Sure.
Because I think it's an important thing. 20% of the purchase price, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they put 20% down at the time of purchase.
They're already there.
Foreclosed. But if they don't, they just put $1,000 down. No matter if there's equity 3 or 4 years later, it's still a cancellation of contract at that point, right?
That's correct. So we normally don't see the 20% issue come aboard. We normally see the 5-year issue. When we see the 5-year issue, what we normally do is we go to our case law, and we found some pretty decent cases that give us a gray area where we tell the client, hey, look, yes, it's over 5 years old, but if they didn't pay even maybe 2 or 3% of that purchase price, let's take a chance. Let's do a forfeiture, which runs like an eviction, and see what the judge says, because it is a gray area. There is no strict guideline that, hey, if it's over 5 years old, watch out. So we tell the client it could get dismissed at court at a forfeiture case. You've spent all that money. Or do you rather do a foreclosure and you'll be fine that route? So we've had some people that said, just try the forfeiture, see what happens. So far, so good. But it makes sense if the borrower hasn't put enough money into the purchase price, into the house. Of course, judges are going to overlook the 5-year fact. So that's kind of where we've been seeing that. So Ohio being our bread and butter really is due to that fact, is that these CFDs go through forfeiture routes. They're not as time consuming. If you've ever done an eviction in Ohio, they take 30 to 45 days. We recommend sending that demand letter, a 30-day demand letter before you do anything with the forfeiture. Then you do your posting. So in Ohio, it's different on a forfeiture route. You have to post a 10-day notice on the door. And then at the hearing, the person who posts and a representative from the company has to appear at court to testify. So it could be the same person. It could be a property manager. So that's key. I think if you want some boots on the ground, Ohio would be your place to put boots on the ground, only because of that fact. Really, you got to have somebody that can go into court and say, yes, this defendant defaulted. Here's the date of last payment. I've seen property managers do it. I've seen people hired through different sorts of ways who just go to these hearings, as long as the client themselves, the investor themselves says, hey, this is what's going on the file. You're going to represent me, and they have some sort of agreement. So it's pretty easy if you do it that way, but they just need to understand that somebody does need to be there to testify. you don't want to have an investor in California have to take a trip to Ohio for that type of hearing.
Yeah, I've had to fly out to Florida a couple times for things. And although it's Florida, it's not bad because it's sunny, you know.
Right.
And I was going to be in the state anyway, but yeah, that's an extra added little thing to doing that. Now, if you look at what's the difference, what's the cost to do a cancellation versus, because you said basically $5,000 for a full blown foreclosure.
Sure.
What's the cost to do a cancellation of contract?
You're looking at about $1,000, maybe a little more. Attorney's fees and costs, only because it's a quick process. And what we ask is the client to say, look, since it is a pretty cheap process, make sure you have somebody ready to go to this court hearing, because once that hearing is set, you don't want to get it continued. You don't want to get it dismissed. It's a one and only. They get served. The borrowers get served pretty quickly. Just be ready before we file.
Right. And what's the time frame for that? Is it 30 days later that
Yeah. So when the complaint will get filed, you'll get a hearing within 3 to 4 weeks. Some counties 5 weeks. But at that hearing date, that third, fourth, fifth week, that's where you get your judgment for possession. You have your guy come or gal come testify that, hey, there's a default. Judge grants the possession. We just had one yesterday. Judge granted possession. Today they can go take over the property because it was vacant. So it's strange. You even need to do that for vacant property if it's a recorded land contract. So you got to be careful with some of those issues. We always say go to the judicial route. It doesn't take that long. Publish, be done with it.
Right. That's a good point. And for those that are watching online, if you have questions regarding Ohio and some of the states, now's the time to start asking those, so we make sure and pick Franco's brain before we let him go this afternoon. So that's good to know. So let's recap that with Ohio. 20% on the down, or 5 years to have to foreclose. And if they don't put the 20% down, we still try to go it because it's still worth trying it. If you've got to go back, go the full route, it's worth $1,000 risk in my book, to try to keep that up there. They now, it's a relatively quickly process. You say roughly 30 plus days, 10 plus a 10-day notice roughly?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. That's really, really good to know. And doing it on vacant properties as well as occupied properties. Don't be one of these guys that, you can go out and secure the property that's vacant. Would you agree to that?
I agree. You can preserve it.
But let's not go and start hauling dumpsters out and
get your judgment for possession and do what you have to. And if you do see personal property there, like couches and TVs, we do tell some investors, hey, look, maybe get the writ, have the sheriff come out. It's up to you, because the borrower can always come back and say, hey, where's my personal property? Mm-hmm. It's your comfort level. Obviously, me, the attorney, I always say, well, sure, get the writ and get the sheriff out. But again, you got your judgment for possession. Make an informed decision when you get to that property what the stuff looks like.
Yeah, good point. Let's talk about the Wolverine state next door there, Michigan. Let's talk about their laws to foreclose first before we dive into CFDs.
Sure, you got your note and mortgage foreclosure, very quick process. Again, with any of these processes, bake in a 30-day demand. It's common to do it. You don't want to get stuck behind it. You send it out. After that process is done, we would then do a non-judicial foreclosure, which gets advertised through the Detroit Legal News, and it goes to all the counties in Michigan. And a sale is set within 45 days from that notice. So if you're doing it, July 1st, you could have a sale date August 15th. Be prepared to bid that quickly. You're only given 4 to 5 weeks. We recommend bidding the outstanding balance, unless you just want to unload this property and say, whatever, we'll bid 10 grand and somebody buys it for 11. You can do that too. But it's a quick process, 45 days. The downfall with Michigan is post-sale. After sale, there's a 6-month redemption period. It gives the borrower 6 months to stay in the property. So that's one problem. Again, you're back almost into Ohio, 9 to 12 month process, but at least you have the sale done with. You're just waiting for the redemption period. If you find that the property is vacant, and you can do that through the electric company, see if the electric's on, take a look at the property, do a visual inspection. We provide the notice that you post on the property, and the borrower and you would reduce the redemption from 6 months down to 30 days. So vacant property, you're looking at a really quick process. If it's not vacant, you've got your 6-month redemption period.
That's good to know. You just got to provide proof from the electric company, the utilities company, that power is off.
Yeah, so what happens is we give you an affidavit, and in the affidavit, the investor puts on there, we believe through our knowledge that the property is vacant. Now, the investor should have reason to believe it is, and I say call the electric company to find out, see if there's anything around there. If it's truly vacant, no water, it's an indicia of vacancy. So the affidavit will be signed by the investor. And if the borrower ever comes back later on and says, hey, I had my stuff in there, they have to be prepared to say, we called the electric company. There was no water to this property. Here are the pictures. So at least they have some backup. There's only a one-page affidavit that gets recorded, so we don't require all those other documentation.
Yeah, but that's still good. That's one of the things we talk about doing in due diligence is they're doing that extra step on the front end. Pick up the phone, call the utilities company, just find out if it's on. Tell them that you're the bank, and they'll release the information. You know, so and some have been really good. Oh yeah, there's a huge balance, or no, they're in a payment plan, or it's on, or there's a pending, turn off down. That's important to keep. Now, do you ever see this in Michigan? And I'm sure you do. People paying for the borrowers to release the redemption rights and get out sooner than 6 months.
Yeah, you can do that. I mean, it's a waiver. It's cash for keys deals. We see a lot of those type of deals, and those are quick and easy, painless. And then eventually there's a signed agreement that gets recorded that states, the redemption period has been waived, and give a little bit of money to go out. Now, again, it wouldn't be so much as a waiver as it would be, here's a cash for keys agreement. You've secured the property. It is now vacant. Then you go ahead and you file the affidavit of vacancy. So that's kind of how it works. Sure.
And I know it's probably varies across the board depending on the value of the property, stuff like that. But what do you see? I'm sure somebody's going to ask you, what do you see as far as the amount for the release of redemption rights or the cash for keys after that?
It really depends on your comfort level. I've seen 500, I've seen 2,000, only because there've been some that are in good areas. So I think it's really more on your end of what you think might be proper. If you can turn this property around quickly, and you've got a motivated borrower, $500, here's $500, just leave it broom clean and we'll take care of the rest. So that's something that, again, you don't have to give this person the $500 until you get into the property and see what it looks like. Our agreements are pretty tight. So if you find out that there's more damage than $500, you send a letter to the borrower, sorry, you're not getting your money.
Yeah.
So that's one way to do it.
That's good stuff there. Now let's talk about contract for deeds in Michigan there too. What are the laws with evicting or canceling or foreclosing?
Well, for the contract for deed, you're not going to get any issues that you get in Ohio. It's just going to be standard forfeiture clause. The one difference you're going to have is if the borrower paid more than 50% of the purchase price, which is so far is rare in my 12 years of practice. If they paid 50%, they get more time to stay in the property post-judgment. So basically, again, the 30-day demand letter goes out. We send out, in our law firm, a 15-day notice of forfeiture. Once the 15 days expires, we go ahead and file a complaint for forfeiture. The hearing will be between 3 and 5 weeks away. And we go to the hearing. We provide proof that there's default. And normally the judge will grant us a judgment for possession. Michigan's a tricky one where we've seen it go both ways, where you don't need to testify as an investor and you do need to testify. So just be aware you might have to. If not, we can probably provide you with an affidavit if you can't make it, stating, hey, here's the payment history. There's a default. We're going to submit that before court. We've seen Michigan be a little more lenient in regards to testimony. So when we get to that route, we've had some counties that we can probably tell you, yeah, you're going to have to show up. So you get the Detroit area, you'll see a lot of that. But it's a 15-day notice. It's a hearing for about 4 weeks later. You get your judgment for possession. Once you get your judgment, again, we can file a writ, an application of writ for to move them out. There is not a redemption period, but there's a period of which it's 90 days that you have to give the borrower time to redeem. And that's the redemption's based on the reinstatement. It's not based on the payoff. So it's one thing you got to watch out for. If a borrower, let's say they owe you $500, you go through the forfeiture process, you get a judgment. Hey, wait a minute, no, here's $1,000. It's going to redeem it. Boom, you're back down to square one. You just constantly keep refiling until you finally get them out. So you can always foreclose, but that takes about a year to a year and a half judicially. You don't want to do that. So if you're going to go through the actual forfeiture process, and make sure this borrower is behind and they're going to stay behind. So if you got a $2,000, $3,000, reinstatement, and you definitely want them out, then yeah, take a look at that point and do it. So you get your 15-day notice. Your hearing is 4 weeks after the complaint files, and then you've got a 90-day waiting period to wait for that borrower to move out of that house. After 90 days, we can apply for a writ to move them out.
So still a 6-month process for the most part, from beginning 30-day through kind of the final of redemption or the catch-up clause, right?
Yeah, so I think you're looking at probably maximum 6 months.
Okay, cool. That's not bad. And then costs for that in Michigan?
The costs across the board, without Illinois, we're not encountering Illinois or Kentucky, but Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana, you're looking at the same figures. Budget about a little over 1,000, right around that range. And again, those timeframes are probably the same for each. Michigan with the redemption period. Ohio does not have that, nor does Indiana.
Okay, good stuff. This is great. I didn't know the 50% down in Michigan.
Right.
That's something new, or the redemption based off just the past due, not the full payoff amount. Those are
right.
two.
And in Michigan, for the 50% rule, it's a 6-month redemption. So it doesn't mean you have to take it to foreclosure. It just means you got to give them 3 more months.
That's still not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not at all. Not bad at all. And anything if it's vacant, it's faster. You said, right?
Well, the problem is you still got to serve them. So we've had some issues where we'd have to actually find these people to serve them, or we do alternate service. All that's going to do is kind of extend the process to get the judgment. We've got one investor, he's a really good guy. He's been very patient with us. We're really trying to work this file. We got so many process servers on it. We finally got a good address, and we're finally getting to the point where we can get them out. But that's like 1 or 2 cases out of so many. You find that problem where it's vacant. There's nothing you can do about it until you get this person served. So when we do alternate service, that normally will speed up the process, but you're going to take it out about maybe a month, month and a half.
Cool. Now, Ohio and Michigan, 2 bread and butter states, we buy a lot there. A lot of people buy it because there's been so much inventory there that has done well over the last couple of years with 10-15% appreciation going on. Wow. If you had a glass ball, and you may not know this, and so I'm just throwing it out there, where do you see both those states kind of going? I mean, have you seen an increase in foreclosures from a true first lien, bank originated side for the most part, speed up, or those slow down? What have you kind of seen in those?
I don't want to call it a peak, but I know that there's been at least a flat line of the major banks and the other lenders filing foreclosures. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't consider much of a difference from a couple of years ago. I actually probably, if anything, have seen a little bit of a pickup in Ohio. And to be honest, we're getting most of our work from Ohio and Indiana. Those are the 2 big states we're seeing a lot of work come from, the note and mortgage side or the foreclosure side. We're getting a lot of CFDs on the Michigan side. So that's kind of where I'm seeing these files flow through. But I don't see where the economy's gotten so good that the foreclosures have slowed down.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's good. Because I know you said a lot of money going into Columbus. Columbus is a booming market. You've got a lot of money going into downtown Detroit, and a lot of whenever the car companies start to do better, that helps other areas. Like Fort Wayne is doing well in Indiana as well, kind of bring it back. But it'll be interesting to see what happens with tariffs and all this stuff going in the economy. What happens to the workforce up there, right? Because it's so blue collar.
It is.
Are you a big fan of snow and ice living up north?
It's not a love, but it's something you have to deal with. I mean, I'm born and raised in Cleveland and got a Cleveland diehard spirit. My partner's out of Cincinnati. I mean, they don't get the cold like we do in Cleveland, but they still get a little bit of cold. But I don't know if I'd trade it. I've been other places and I've seen other things, and home is where it is, and
sure.
You start to get used to it.
Right. Now, the question I asked about the reason I bring up the cold, it's hot, 95 degrees here in Austin right now. Does the weather slow down anything? Do the judges ever slow down evictions for proceeds or anything like that in the middle of winter or not? Do you see that happening?
What we'll see is we will see delayed executions on writs. We've seen moratoriums in the past. I haven't seen that recently for a regular foreclosure case, but you'll see that a lot for executions. You'll see the end of December, beginning of January is going to be your slow period. Just, judges don't want to set anything for those weeks.
Right.
Other than that, we haven't seen any reason for them to slow it down, but for the fact that, yes, the executions slow down, especially here in Cleveland, due to the weather, period. And that's due to January and February being just really rough months, and some bailiffs saying, we can't even go out this day, push it out 2 weeks, 3 weeks, wait for these storms to pass.
Sure.
Yes, the cold has affected it some, just not a whole lot.
Okay. That's good to know. Now, if somebody's coming to you with a couple files, is there a process that helps it streamline for you? Should they have the copy of the collateral sent to at least electronically, or payoff statements, or last pays, or any letters from their servicer to help out with you guys doing what you need to do to begin with?
Well, I guess it's twofold. You've got investors that have servicers. You've got investors sometimes that just send files to us. The ones with servicers, we have a long-standing relationship with a lot of them, so they know what to send us, and basically it's exactly what we need. If it's for a mortgage case, it's a note and a mortgage. If it's for a CFD, we need a copy of the CFD. For both of those instances, we need assignments of those documents to the proper party, the investor, and we would need an allonge or an endorsement of that note. And what I've seen a lot in the CFD world, and especially in our Midwestern states, there's almost too many documents that the originator prepared. All you need is one. So it's the land contract. That's all you need. It's an all-in-one encompassing. It's the note, it's the mortgage, it's everything. So we also see promissory notes, and we see allonges in the CFD world. We really don't need those. We just need that assignment of land contract. Note and mortgage world, we'll obviously need the endorsement or allonge on the note, and then the assignment of mortgage. And you are correct. We'll need the reinstatement quote, the payoff quote. It'd be nice to see a payment history and the social security number of those borrowers, so we can run any bankruptcy and military checks. We want to make sure that they haven't filed bankruptcy and we don't have an active military person.
But if they have filed bankruptcy, you guys can also help out with that too, correct?
Absolutely. We flipped it over to Tony, and he runs with it. That's what I like about our firm is we go back and forth. Okay, a debtor filed bankruptcy. Tony, you got this. Debtor's out of bankruptcy. Franco, it's back to yours. Oh, wait, debtor filed again. How do we stop the debtor from doing this? Tony, let's answer this. It's a great back and forth, and the speed at which we can do it because we're constantly talking to each other because we know that as much as this is the legal field, it's run by businesses. Businesses want fast results, and we try to provide as fast a result as possible, as humanly possible, as legally possible. We can't break that legal aspect of it, but if it means getting a phone call back from me, you're going to get it right away. From Tony, probably even quicker. So I mean, it's good to have a bankruptcy department, good to have a collection department, good to have a foreclosure department. Between Tony and I, we've got a great system that's working for us right now.
Yeah, you guys do it. He is extremely fast, especially on LinkedIn too. And you're fast, totally phenomenal out there. I mean, that's the great thing about it. I'm just pulling up. If you got any questions from people here real fast? We got a lot of thumbs up. People are enjoying this. Let's see here. Let's pull it up if Facebook's not running too slow here today. What's the thing that frustrates you the most with investors?
Well, I don't want to say the number of questions. I would say more of maybe the same questions being said, and also some of them are, I guess, so new that it's almost like a second educational experience. And it's hard because some of them don't know what deed means, some don't know what note means or mortgage or land contract. So it's a lot of those educational things that we would maybe request that they pick up a little bit on that first before they dive in. And I know you guys do a great job of teaching them. Maybe some just don't grasp it as much. We'll get those kind of questions like, what do you mean by you need a reinstatement? What does reinstatement mean?
That's scary. That's scary if they're asking you that.
It is. And look, we get a lot of investors. Obviously, a lot that come from you. We get a lot of investors from other areas. They go to different conferences and they come to us. And we always ask them, where'd you get the information from? I went to this conference at this hotel one day. Well, okay, did you sign up for some course to maybe learn a little more? No, I'll just ask you the questions. I said, well, no, it doesn't work that way.
If you want to, I'll charge you $250 an hour. Normal.
That's right. So we've been trying to do that more about the hourly fee thing, but I also hate to do that. It's like I don't mind giving the information, but when it's down to that level of, well, you don't know what a deed is, that's a different issue. It's a different issue. So I'd say those would be the most frustrating.
Yeah, because I hear that a lot. It's one of the things when people come in, hey, I want to buy notes. Well, have you gone through anybody's education? Oh no, I'm a fix and flipper. I get years of experience. I don't need a class. Oh, the note game is different than the fix and flip game. Just from the legalese aspect of it is totally different, right?
Absolutely.
And definitely. Now, are you guys investors yourselves too? Do some of that stuff on the side?
No, I did a little bit in the past, and since our firm's been growing and we've gotten different fires in the pot, we're sticking to what we're good at. I got rid of my properties. I said I'm out. I don't need to deal with it. I think maybe in the future we may take a look at it, especially with the knowledge that we have. But for now, we're sticking to the legal game.
Hey, nothing wrong with this. When business is booming, why stray, right? Why
Exactly.
drive away, right? That's
Exactly.
good stuff out there. What's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
We've got a website, SotillianBarile.com. You can get us by email. We have different types of ways to send us emails, whether you're referring something or giving it just to me or Tony. We have a collections at SotillianBarile.com. We've got foreclosures at SotillianBarile.com. Then we've got our individual emails. By phone, we'll respond as soon as possible. Email is probably the best route. Scott, you've got my information. Franco.
I'll be glad to post it.
Same with Tony. That's the best way to get us, because then what we can do is we can decipher those emails and say, this definitely we got to call them back right away, or some, can maybe wait a couple of hours. So by email would be the best route, and then from there, we make phone calls at 8, 9 o'clock at night. We have no problem with that. If there are things that need to get done, and that's the best way to do it by email. And of course, we do respond by phone.
Yeah, you guys do a great job of reaching out. Email is always faster for the most part because you can get it just about anywhere versus being on the phone or podcasts or in trial, stuff like that. You can always that's beautiful. So let's make it. If you guys are listening to this or you're watching it, if you don't have a file, don't call and bother them. If you got a file and you can send them some business, okay, that's great. But if you don't know what the heck you're doing, learn what you can do. And hey, it's an easy plug. We got a class in less than 2 weeks too. The next virtual Don't Buy for Dummies is June 20th to the 22nd as well online. But Tony, I want to say thank you so much. Tony. Franco. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Sorry, Franco. I want to thank you for taking time on your very busy schedule and your caseload to help us out with us beyond the show. We love sending you business. I'm actually going to be heading up to Detroit this Friday, actually tomorrow afternoon, and looking at a bunch of property of that neck of the woods. So should be sending over some new files here in the next couple of weeks as well, besides getting you some more stuff on the stuff that you've already prepared for me as well, too. So thank you so much, man.
Hey, I really appreciate you bringing me on board, and I know Tony appreciates it as well, and we appreciate all the business you provided us. You want us to do any other type of podcast? I know Tony's interested in doing some Bankruptcy 101. We'd love to continue doing this.
Be glad to. You got to get big shout out to our boy Adam Adams from AJ Investments. I think was one of the first clients that brought you.
Yes.
Started working with it, and he does a great job. He did a really good job with his Cincinnati and Ohio tour a few months ago, going to lunch and stuff like that. So big shout out to our boy Adam Adams there, who wants to be the laziest note investor in the world, as he likes to.
You know what, he may be, but I'll tell you what, he's got a brain. When you call him, we just called him a couple of days ago, and you talk to him. For me, it's like talking to an attorney. It's like he has his stuff together so well, and he's not looking to cut any corners. He said, "You guys do what you have to do. We're setting up terms for settlements here and there." He's been an absolute pleasure to work with, and I've become good friends with him. So he's a very good guy. That's awesome. Yeah, we're very proud of what him and Jennifer are doing. So they were in the process of building a house, but they said they found a house they liked and said. So that's a good thing. So, but anyway, hey Franco, thanks again, bud. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you around. All right. Hey, I appreciate it, Scott. Take care. No problem. All right, guys. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Once again, if you've got stuff in Ohio and Michigan, these are the guys that you want to be using. They will definitely help you out. And it's just not me talking. I'm talking about tons of our mastermind group and other students have used them, and nothing but good things to say about it. So when you have people talking nice things about attorneys, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. All right. So once again, great information on today's show, talking about the different markets to avoid, and things that you probably didn't know. So if you enjoyed this, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, or share this if you're watching this on Facebook Live as well. So, but otherwise, guys, have a great day. Go out and do something, and we'll see you all at the top. Bye.